could not do this without y'all's support. We've got fantastic volunteers, but if you guys didn't come, it wouldn't have grown from a little tiny corner of the market square to taking over the whole market square. We appreciate that you want to know about how to make a difference in the world and build a sustainable community. And I've been walking around with Mayor Bob Dixson for the last couple of hours, and let me tell you, he's a bit like a rock star, and that's going to embarrass him, but people keep walking up to him and introducing themselves to him, taking their picture with him. He is a gentleman who thought that he would kind of slide into a quiet retirement after working with the post office for several years, being a postal supervisor, being a postmaster. It was looking good. He was going to make wine. He was going to play with his grandchildren. And then May 4th came along, 2007, and almost everybody in the room knows what that means. The largest tornado ever, 2 miles wide, blew through Greensburg, Kansas, which already had the name Green, and wiped 95% of the town off the planet. Okay, I'm going to get a little audience participation. I want people in rows 1 and 2 to stand up. It's okay, I'm not going to ask you to do poetry. Stand up. That's you, sir. You got to stand up. First couple of rows, first 3 rows, lady in the pink. That's how much of Greensburg was left on the morning of May 5th. Is that right? May 5th? 95% was wiped out and 5% was left standing. And I'd like to introduce Mayor Bob Dixson from Greensburg, Kansas.
Thank you, Lucy. It's a real honor and pleasure to be here today, and I thank you all for coming to the Renewable Energy Conference and educating ourselves, of making us aware of what's out there, making us aware that we can be a sustainable society living within the resources that the Lord's blessed us with and being good stewards of those resources. And that's the key to being sustainable. Lucy was talking about expectations. Expectations of retiring on my little lot, growing my grapes, playing with my grandkids. On May the 4th of 2007, our expectations that evening after work, relax, get ready for a nice, beautiful weekend. You had expectations where you came here today, expectations of some nice, valuable information you could go around and pick up and talk with experts in every field. I'm telling you though, your expectations can change in a blink of an eye. We went from, on the plains of western Kansas, a beautiful tree-lined community, and I'll just happen to show you, this is the quarter of a city block that we live on. 2-story Victorian home with 25 huge trees in the lot. In the matter of just a few minutes, this is what the town looked like. Again, 95% of it, it was like an atomic bomb went off. And we talked to a meteorologist out of Wichita that studied this tornado for 2 years, and he told me the other day, when you say it looked like a bomb, that's true, because the energy of this EF5 tornado, 2 miles wide, had the same energy as a bomb. In the midst of it all, of losing 11 people, and that's the thing that still touches us, because it was our neighbors, it was our friends. But we also know now we've been blessed with a tremendous opportunity and have an awesome responsibility in the rebuilding process to build back and leave a legacy for our future generations. Again, it was a wedge tornado, not a rope tornado. It was on the ground for almost 45 miles in various degrees of destruction. It had a defined eye in it, as you all know down here and a little further south of a hurricane. The eye of the storm took as high as 2 minutes to move across town. Most tornadoes have a forward motion of 40-50 miles an hour. This one was only moving at 20 miles an hour. There were people that were in their basements and the lull of the eye came and they thought it was over and started out. And luckily got back down in quick enough. And this is the destruction from our property looking across the town to the east and to the southeast. I can't even look at this much. This is the house of our dreams. Home built in 1912 on a quarter city block with the, the fancy oak woodwork and all that. In a matter of minutes, it went from that, if you see the Y on this ash tree and the driveway right there, you'll see that that's what we ended up with on our property. As did everyone in town, lost everything they had. You have a new appreciation for the homeless. It mattered not your social economic status of where you're at or how much money you had in the bank, you lost everything. But the only thing we really had left, and the only true sustainable thing in life, is our relationships with our fellow community members. And I challenge each one of you that that is the only true sustainable thing you really have in life, is your relationships with each other, and make sure you cultivate those relationships. My wife and I were in our basement, and I stood up, and I'm a little taller than some people, and I was able to look 360 degrees around and saw nothing but debris and devastation, and my first impression was, are we the only ones left? At 10 o'clock at night. It was about 10 o'clock by that time. But the first thing you did was you got out and you started looking for your neighbors, and that's what each one of you would do. You disregard your possessions, what you could save. You look for your neighbors. And in just a matter of minutes, the streets were crawling with people, coming out of their storm shelters, coming out of their basements. And it was very refreshing because EMS personnel from the whole area of that state were told to bring all the body bags they could, because there could be as high as 200 fatalities. We only had 11. So early warning systems by the National Weather Service work. Please heed those warnings when you hear them. And we're back in a new home, the new house of our dreams. This was just a few weeks after the tornado, after the streets got cleared. That was the first project that we had to get done. Over 70,000 semi-loads of debris left the community, and EPA dug a huge pit. And that fire was going for over 3 months. A year later, 2 years later, now I want to get to what this real conference is about. It's about being sustainable. This is the best definition I've been able to come up with. It really touches me about what sustainability is. It's the ability of us to meet our needs, but not jeopardizing or compromising the ability of future generations to meet their needs. And I'm a firm believer. I'm not going to stand up here and preach to you about my faith, and I don't mean to offend anybody, but I know my faith, and I'm just telling you, being green and being sustainable is just being good stewards of the resources the Lord's blessed us with. And when we do that, then we will be sustainable, and we will leave that legacy to future generations. So at the end of this 21st century, they'll look back on us and say, they really were visionary and did something about that 40 years of going downhill. They're starting to turn it around and live within their means. And it's so nice to be in a tent. The summer after the storm, that was the only place we had to meet as a community, was in a big circus tent. FEMA brought that to town, set it up, and we did everything in that tent. We had community church services in the tent together. We had planning sessions together. We had city council meetings. The whole community attended, county commission meetings. And we all ate together. So we cried together, we hugged together, we loved together, and we worshiped together. And we ate. And that's kind of important. But that is the process that we went through that is highly critical. And we've been asked, how do we replicate what you're doing? And yes, we don't want to say, well, have a disaster. No, don't do that. It's involve all the stakeholders that you have in the community to address whatever situation you need to address. And you have to pull all those stakeholders together, and you have to involve the community. I don't want to make this a political issue. I'm a firm believer For us to take care of our environment right now transcends politics. It's not a right or a left issue or an up or a down issue. It's an issue of each one of us making a difference. We all hear about solar or Arctic ice melting away and all these big things that we don't know how to deal with them. So nothing gets done. I just challenge each one of us to make a difference where you're planting. Whether it's in recycling, whether it's in weatherization of your home,